we will reconvene. All right. Welcome, Mr. Dorsey. We appreciate your interest in applying for the city manager position and taking your time out to come and meet with us and answer some questions. What we'll do is I'll give you an opportunity to make a statement, remarks, comments. We will then in turn do a round robin with the council members, asking a question, probably around 3 questions each. Take turns, and then when we get done with that, then we have Mr. Cook with East Ridge News Online. He has fielded some questions from our citizens. We've got citizens' input and questions that have been submitted to him. He's categorized those, and he will then present some citizen questions for you. And then we'll wrap up with any closing statements, comments, or questions you may have.
Okay.
All right, so we'll go ahead and proceed and let you open up.
Thank you. Hi, I'm Chris Dorsey. I'm here applying for the obviously the city manager position. I'm a resident of Hickson. I've lived here since 2005. I used to work for the city of Memphis. That's my hometown. I worked there for 18 years. And did a lot of different things down there, worked my way up through the city. When I left, I was the budget manager of the city. Over a $300 million operating budget, $300 million capital improvement budget. Had a lot of responsibilities with the finances within the city, and that's what gave me my first experiences dealing with all the different departments that we had. I had spent a lot of time with fire, police, parks, general services, public works, museums, libraries, and all that sort of thing. So when the time came, my wife was from this area. When the time came, I put out some resumes to try to get into the city management area. Because I have a master's in public administration from UT. So I've always loved government work and working to help people. And I was able to, fortunately, get a job over here as a city manager right now. So since that point, I've had a lot of interaction with the people in East Ridge, and especially a lot of the older board members. I don't know if I should use the word old, but the previous board members that have been here in the city. I have a lot of good members over here. I have a lot of the old city managers that used to be here, and some of the department heads that are still here, that still work here. So I'm not sure what else you have at this point. I don't want to steal from any of your questions, but some other experiences I do have with government, as opposed to my master's being in finance and budgeting, which is one of my strengths that I do. I also, in Memphis, worked on, as a representative from Memphis, worked with MTS on creating a tourism development zone for downtown Memphis. We were in the process of building the, how familiar are with Memphis? We had FedEx Forum, which is a large basketball arena down there. And Knoxville had just done a tourism development zone up there, and the money can be used for convention centers and renovations, things of that nature. So I worked with them to put together the tourism development zone, which basically works like a TIF. You have the, similar to what you have for your board region. Here, you have the TIF where you set out your baseline for your sales taxes. And then anything after that baseline, any increases you have, you're able to utilize on whatever you want to do. So like for here, you utilize it, I'm sure. I don't know what all the actual parameters are. I would say like roads or incentives for some businesses, things of that nature. So on the tourism development zone that we had in Memphis, it was that same sort of thing. All that extra money that was able to go to help retire and do some work at the convention center. And they were able to shuffle some of that money over to build the FedEx Forum that we had over there. So, like I said, my strengths are basically in finance and budgeting. I also pride myself on my interpersonal skills, my social awareness, and be able to communicate with people. Because you don't treat any two people the same. To me, it's very important to know what a person's wants, needs, and what they're looking for, and be able to talk to those people in ways that you can make a connection with them and be able to work with them. And that's also very true with citizens as well, because you have quite a variety of people that will come in either with issues, complaints, sometimes compliments. That whole nature of things, and I just think that's an important trait to have. Say anything else if you have questions.
Thank you. We'll start the questions with Vice Mayor Helton.
How would you characterize your style of management?
You always hear the term, I have an open door, but I do have an open door. I believe it's important to work with your department heads as a team because, I deal with codes, but I'm not the expert in codes. You want to make sure you can get the best person that can help do that sort of job. Same with public works. I know a lot of the ins and outs of public works. I have water, sewer, right now, sanitation, and I also have electric under me up there. It's far enough working. And it's very important to be able to have those people that have those specific skill sets to complement what you have. One thing that's important to me is twice a month I make sure I have a department head meeting for those people. And it's important for each of them to be able to communicate with each other as well. So they know what's going on in the other departments, because you never know when they might have something that can help this department, or this department has something that can help that department. So I just think it's very important to be able to have that sort of relationship.
Councilman Cagle.
My first question would be, how do you feel on the open records law?
You want to be transparent with what you do in government. I know that, the Office of the Open Records Council, there's certain things that are permitted to be redacted, with open records. Obviously, if it deals with public safety, you don't want to have names, or, addresses, phone numbers, things like that. But I think open records, we are a local government, and it's important to be able to share information with the public, because what do they say? You're not supposed to be able to govern in secret. So to me, that's important, but it's the way that the open records are handled, which I think is also important. I like some of the changes they've made, that you can only have so many requests in a year. That they will charge some people, depending on how many hours of time you have to use to be able to do that sort of work. But I believe open records are a good thing.
Mr. Dorsey, welcome. Thank you for your interest in serving our city. In terms of the police departments and the fire departments, how would you prioritize and how would you be more proactive in making sure that our police departments and our fire and our first responders have the tools and the resources that they need to protect themselves? And not just, I guess, I like to say, I'm trying to use the word more proactive, just to, working, getting more involved, making sure they have the updated equipment, whether it be vests, just,
Well, first you have to ask them what they need. You have to have an idea of what sort of, tools and equipment and PPE, personal protective equipment, and things that they would need in their different areas. You just want me to just refer to the tools, not the actual department.
I'm sorry, what's the
You
question?
want me just to refer to the different tools they may need, not the actual
Yeah, just,
departments?
how proactive you are and how you prioritize your daily duties into making sure they have the resources and
Okay.
tools that they need.
Well, Sparta's a little different than down here in Hamilton County. Up there, we try to see if we can utilize this. They're a city of just over 5,000. Okay? We try to see if there's any grants out there that we're able to utilize to be able to get some of these, whether it's vests, equipment. We do a pretty good job being able to work with, trading in our old guns and things, get some new firearms and things like that. Down here, when I was in Hamilton County, we worked a lot with it was like the Homeland Security. You have down here, I forgot what the division's down here, sorry, it's been a little while. But we used to go to those meetings over at the 911 center, and there's ways over there where you're able to help prioritize, with Chattanooga, obviously they would seem to get the bulk of a lot of the dollars that they went on, but, Beech Ridge, Red Bank, Timber Mountain, and College, we all had to work together to be able to try to utilize, whether it's radios or communication, trying to find other federal grants that might be able to help you get vests, or especially the fire department, make sure you have at least 2 sets worth of gear for them, because if you only have one ones, you know, you really can't get by with just one set, because when you have a fire or something and they're in there trying to get those washed and clean, you're gonna have another set, they have to go back out. So that's something a lot of people don't think about. But to me, it is important to know what they want, to be able to find if there's, whether it's Homeland Security money, whether it's through different federal grants, or sometimes like CDBG. In some cases, you might be able to use CDBG to purchase fire engine, depending on the situation and the size of your city. So there's different things like that. But it's very important that they, you know, they have to have the tools to do their job. They also have to have the training to do their job. That's why I think training is also something very important for all employees of the city, because you better your knowledge, then that just helps us serve citizens better. Thank you.
Thank you for being here today. And my question is on citizens. To what extent do you believe contact with citizens and citizens group is important, and how do you typically handle this responsibility?
Well, citizens pay our salaries. And, you know, you all work for the citizens just like we do. I mean, you're elected by the citizens to help represent the interest of East Ridge. So, to me, you know, it's important, you know, if you have, like we said, an open door policy, but if you also have a way through, you know, the front desk or through the internet, or ways that citizens can bring concerns or things they have in the city that can be addressed, whether they put in issues or, you know, it's a pothole, you know, something that simple, to be able to deal with that. Another issue with citizens is trying to make sure if every neighborhood has a neighborhood group. You know, you can get together, because we do this at Red Bank, you get together the principals that are like the homeowners associations and things like that, try to get those people involved. And if you're able to have meetings, even if it's quarterly, monthly, if you get them active and involved, you know, they help represent even a smaller segment of the population. So if you're able to get those people also involved, that just helps get the group systems involved.
So the question I have is, what type of experience do you have concerning planning, zoning, economic development? You know, you mentioned border region, which we're utilizing, so give me some of your history and your experience in those areas.
Okay. Let's see. In Red Bank and in Sparta, where I am now, we basically work somewhat with the development district. Up there, they have the overcome, and here in the South Tennessee Development District, obviously. We work with them on a lot of our zoning issues, whether it's trying to rezone areas for future development. We have some things that are going on in our downtown area where we had to rezone from one type of commercial to another, like CA, B, C, D. And we also have residential A and B. But it's important to make sure that the descriptions and the restrictions that you have on those actually make sense for the type of businesses or the type of things you're trying to put in those zones. So every once in a while, it does make sense to try to update your zoning regs for those exact reasons. We've had to deal with, I had to deal a lot, especially this week, I had to deal with some setbacks, landscaping issues, the amount of square footage of a couple of the duplexes in some of the houses we had to deal with, draining issues. So with zoning, that's the things that I've had to deal with hands-on. Economic development. Sparta got involved with retail strategies to try to do some work with economic development. They Upper Cumberland Development District there got a lot of the small cities together, and we went through what's called a retail academy that they did with us. And they gave us the names, after we went through all this, they gave us the names of all the businesses that are community our size and be able to utilize within Sparta. The problem Sparta has, though, right now is they're 15 minutes of Cookville. So a lot of people will just drive up the road, and that's where a lot of the economic engine, like better way to put it, is Cookville. So we've had some progress with that, but not as much as we want. We have some industries in Sparta, and one of the things we do with these industries is that right now, matter of fact, 2 of them are expanding somewhat. And we have a third one that just went in out in Franklin County, which is the county Spartan's in, it's just outside the city limits. We have provided sewer service up to them. We got involved with trying to get fast track grants in the state of Tennessee. In addition to that, we've gotten a RDC, a rural development grant, for being able to maintain a lift station for sewers to be able to work better for that little part of the county to help do things. With TVA, since I have an electric department under two, TVA has two programs that also help these companies. One of the programs deals with if they make certain additions, whether it's lights in the parking lot, or anything electrical related items, that they can get grants to help get that sort of back. On the other side, there's an economic development incentive, as part of the branch of what TVA does. There's economic development where they have a certain number of positions that they're going to add to their company. They can get certain financial incentives even through TVA every month to be able to go against that.
Thank you.
What is your experience working with the police department, and what is the most challenging aspect of that relationship?
Police departments, to me, they're the wrong animal. They run under what I call, I don't know what the right word is, I call it like a paramilitary structure, because you literally have your chief, your lieutenants, your sergeants, your officers. You have a strict dynamic there. And the relationship with the police department is important because, you have to make sure, number one, your citizens are safe. Number two, that you have effective communication with your citizens from the police department. Number two, that they have all the right training they need, whether it's just firearms training, whether it's post-commission courses that they need to go through. And they need to be able to have a good relationship with the public as well. So to me, all those different things are important to me. And also, you have the police chief involved with not just, like I mentioned, neighborhood watch groups, neighborhood groups before, neighborhood watches and things like that. But it's important to keep them up to date on the things going on, whether they're on the 911 board or whether they're involved, like I say, with Homeland Security or things of that nature. It's very important to stay up to date with them and make sure you know what their needs are, and then you have a good working relationship with them as well.
Describe your experience, if any, in dealing with charges of discrimination or grievances filed against you or your city.
Well, I haven't had any at Sparta. I've had one in Red Bank, dealing with the police chief there. I don't want to get too much into detail of that. But, if you're talking about discrimination among employees of the city or in particular, I'm not sure which way you want me to answer your question.
Discrimination on employees, citizens.
Okay, thank you. So with that, you need to have in place like it's even supposed to be on your website too. You're supposed to have a way for people to report discrimination to your city, which is very important. Then you're supposed to have which I assume that East Ridge has adopted a policy dealing with how you're going to handle the discrimination complaints and how those things are supposed to be handled within your city. Does it start with a department head? Does it go straight to the city manager? Does it, what sort of path do you have if you're supposed to resolve those issues? Back on a personal level, if I ever had issues with employees or with management dealing with discrimination or harassment or things of that nature, you should have a policy that you should be able to follow in your personnel policies or your codes, which is very important to follow. And one thing that I've always made sure that I do is before you take any legal action or any sort of action against especially employees, that you consult your attorney and make sure that you are, you don't just go off the handle and do some discipline or anything. If it's something that's at a certain level like that, you need to get with your attorney to make sure you're following everything properly, to make sure you have things documented properly, that you know what the proper remediation of the problem is, and make sure you're following the steps correctly, and to change the culture.
In your past experience, when it comes to employing fire chiefs or police chiefs or any department head, do you typically believe in promoting within the department or going outside the department?
Well, it may depend on the department, and what I mean by that is, if in some cases you may have a police department where, and I'm not saying this from experience, just as an example, in some cases you may have a police department where you're trying to change the culture within the police department, and it may be something where you need to bring somebody in from the outside to help with that. Not trying to punish people in there, but you're trying to bring a new culture back. Otherwise, you know, you may have qualified people in there, but you obviously want to try to get the best person you can within that department. So I've had to hire a couple of police chiefs in my time, and I've made sure I've gotten MTAS involved and use a smart police consultant to make sure that you know the right questions to ask, you know, because he's the expert. That you have the right questions to ask, you know what your needs are, if that person can meet your needs. And you encourage your employees to apply too, because I do believe it's important, if you can, to be able to promote from within your department, because that that gives people a reason to want to work, for people to be here. You don't want to have the same job, the entire time you're here. You want to be able to be recognized for good work and be promoted from within, if that's possible. But it's still good to look at the whole thing.
My question is, based on your education, experience, and background, what do you consider to be your strengths in dealing with local government problems, and what are your weaknesses?
Strengths I talked about, I have a financial background. So finance and budgeting, I always considered that to be a big strength of mine. We'll do budgets, try, to massage, like you said, the needs that we have versus the tax rate that you have versus the revenue that you have. Because nobody likes tax increases. Sometimes tax increases would be necessary, but that's not necessarily my call. That is y'all's call. And if something like that happens, you have to have good justification and the reasons you're able to do that. But beyond that, like I said, financial is important to me. Personnel is important to me. Having good communications with people is important to me. I would say one of my weaknesses may be that I'm a horrible filer. I've learned to have, just like I said before, you have strong people around you that can help you make sure your desk doesn't start piling up. That can help keep you on track, whether it's to make sure you're done with the meeting before to get to the next meeting that's in line, to keep you on time for those things, because you always get, as a city manager, you always get pulled in different directions. And sometimes they have to be the ones to be the buffers to come in and say, hey, first you need to get ready for the next meeting, and help with those sort of things too.
So my next question, you mentioned that when your strength is budgeting, can you give me your role and your participation in your style when you're preparing the budget? We're moving into that area at this point. We've got to work on our budget and get it submitted soon. So can you give me a little background on your involvement, style, and role in budgeting?
Usually the first thing I do is when we get to about February, I get with all the department heads and I will hand out spreadsheets, things of that nature, the ones that wanted on in Excel, I'm into in that form as well. And I start trying to find out what their wants and needs are. They tell me already, this is the time you got to start putting the pen to paper. They start telling me what their needs are for that next year. Usually I will, I also do what's called, my budget book that I usually put together also has goals, objectives, try to do performance measures when we can. To put those in there because the budget document, I'm putting them off screen here, I'm sorry. The budget document is an important document because that's what the people know what the priorities are for your city. If you put in there, what the money's for, who it's going to, why you're, how much money you have for policing, what's the main purpose of that money, and things of that nature. But going back to the actual budget, it's important to hand those spreadsheets out. They will come in and ask questions, dealing with, what parameters do you have? Are you looking at a even keel budget? You have extra revenue coming in this next year, so you want them to rank certain priorities, things of that nature. You ask them to go through those, and then they will submit those into you. And then what I do is I put all those together in my spreadsheet, and so then after I've talked to each one of them as they submit it to find out why they have the numbers that they have, it's important, like I said, have good communication with the department heads. Once you have all that together, you take the spreadsheet, you see how all your expenditures come out, you see how all your revenues come out, and you get a good financial picture of where you stand. You always hope you have more revenues than expenditures, but sometimes you don't. One thing that's hard to do, it's hard to tell everybody to take a 5%, 5% cut across the board if you're trying to get money in. Because 5% of the $1 million budget is not the same as 5% of a $200,000 budget. So you try to, if you start having monetary issues like that, you try to find out what the direction is of the council of what their priorities are. And then you try looking at what things you might be able to cut along the way to deal with that. But even if that's not an issue, once they turn in and we see how everything looks, then I'll get back with all the department heads and say, look, we have this, or this, and we're able to see how it compares with our revenues at that point. Especially, because you got the general fund, you have all your enterprise funds, your water, your sewer, sanitation. A lot of places have that as its own special revenue fund. Like I said, electric. And those, have to go together as self-sufficient funds. But of course, your general fund, that's funded through your sales taxes, your taxes, your state share revenues, and things of that nature. So to answer your question, it's important to make sure that all different department heads are involved in the process. And I expect the department heads to fight for what they want. That doesn't mean they're going to be able to get everything they want. But, they need to be able to defend their departments and say why they need this and what they need. And at the end of the day, we work through all the different strategies that we have to have in the budget. And I make sure all the department heads know what's either added or taken from the budget, so there's no surprises. During that process, usually the city manager is the one that's in charge of doing the budget. Depending on how you do it here, I would either meet first with the mayor, or even before we start the process. Some boards like to get together and say, Chris, this is the direction we want to go this year. We want to have an emphasis on, police equipment. It could be merit, things for employees. It could be insurance issues, those sort of things. So that part all depends on how your board's set up. The board I have right now, they want me to go through and put all the first round of numbers together. Then I meet with the mayor. And then we will put it together. We submit it to the council to look at. At that point, we will have budget hearings. And I bring every department in one by one to sit down with the board. And they can ask questions at that point of, what's in the budget, why this is in the budget, what purpose does it have towards your overall goals and objectives for your department. And we go through all that. And that's when the board really gets involved for all line items that are in the budget to see where they want to go with those. At the end of that, we just cobble the budget back. We cobble the pieces of the budget back together. We will print the final book for the budget, or the binder, however you all like to do it. Then you do your revenue ordinance along with that, and you make sure that, like I said, your revenues at least match your expenditures. And then you're to present that for final approval. There's more intricate steps when you have to publish it, when you have to have it done.
Right, thank you.
Departmental support.
If hired, what would you hope to accomplish in the first year?
First, you have to see if there's any ongoing issues that are lagging over from previous issues or previous administrations or boards, and see if there's any loose ends that need to be tied first. Along with that, it becomes very important to get to know the board. It's important to know our department heads and try to meet your employees. To me, morale and employee involvement is very, very important. You have to be able to, try to know most of your employees either by the first name or at least to have ways you can interact with them if you have a large workforce. On some of the personal level, to know that you're there to help them, to work with them, and it's important that they're involved. So as part of the first year, those are the biggest things right there. Getting to know your workforce, getting to know what issues the board, or not the board, the council is wanting you to be involved in the first year. Because it's very important to know that, with the city manager form of government, I am like the captain of the ship. It's my job to steer it where you tell me to.
Executive question right here. When a special call meeting is called and the agenda is presented to the public, part of the agenda is discussed in open meeting. The rest of the agenda is done in executive session. If a citizen requests the minutes of the agenda that was presented, do you think the minutes of the whole agenda should be made available?
Do they request that same night, or do they request after you approve the minutes at the next meeting? I would say.
Is that again?
You're saying that the person wants to see the minutes of the meeting. I assume you mean after they've been approved by the board at the next thing. Well, they obviously have a right to the minutes of the meeting board. Depending on what's going on in the executive session, is this a executive session where
Not personnel, not on,
it's legal, like legal issues, an executive session with your attorney, or is it just like an agenda session
the agenda.
for things that you want to put on the board? Well, that's considered an open meeting. So I would assume they would have a right to have the minutes and entertain it.
Thank you.
How successful have you been in attaining either state or federal grants for various projects in the cities you worked in? And if any, could you list a few specifically, what programs you administered by those grants?
Okay, start with Red Bank. Back when we had the recession, when it hit, we were able to apply for, they were called Tiger grants back then. And my biggest concern I've had when I went to Red Bank, the main, as I call it, the main drag in Red Bank is Dayton Boulevard. There were no sidewalks on Dayton Boulevard. So to me, it was important to be able to work on and this is even before you kind of turn multiple projects really, but to be able to put sidewalks along Dayton Boulevard. So we were able to get, I can't remember if it was $1 million, I'm sorry, it's been a while, grant to be able to literally run sidewalks the whole length of Dayton Boulevard. And with that, we had a problem, with the topography on the side and trying to establish a right-of-way to be able to provide a right-of-way to be able to do it. So I came up with the idea of Dayton Boulevard is 5 lanes wide, and each lane was like 12 feet. I said, if I need 5 feet of sidewalks, why can't I take a foot from each lane and put a sidewalk literally in what was part of the right lane of the road to begin with? So that's what we did. We were able to successfully put in, like I said, sidewalks the entire length of Dayton Boulevard with that grant. In addition to that, we just finished a multimodal grant in Sparta. That was a $1 million grant to work on stormwater, which was also part of the grant, I'm sorry, but stormwater drainage issues. We spent our own money on sewer because it doesn't make sense to work on the road and then a year later have to dig up a sewer line down the road. So we were able to do that. That had curbs, gutters, sidewalks, and we worked in conjunction with TDOT on that grant to also make sure that when they were getting ready to resurface that, because it's US 7 there, that we were able to have all these changes done before they came in resurface. So that was important. One of the things I've worked on with like the Southeast Tennessee Development District, they have certain CDBG grants, and we were able to help work on CDBG grants. And usually we would turn them over to WWTA because there were some sewer issues, and they were able to utilize that money to help rehab some of the sewers in Red Bank. Up in Sparta right now, we did a CDBG grant to help with renovating some of our sewers out there. We have a very big ion pond out there, and we're going to get a $500,000 grant to help fix some of the manholes and some of the clay lines that we have there to be able to get rid of some of the iron problem. We've also done a CDBG grant dealing with it's called a CDBG home grant. And with that, you're able to have some of your citizens that are economically distressed to be able to apply for certain grants to help with renovations to their homes. So that's obviously an important grant if you're able to get those to look at. I've done an assistance to firefighters grant before, where you're able to hire a couple firefighters for that the federal government will pay a certain amount in the first year, then a little less the second year, and by the third or fourth year, you have to pay for it yourselves after that point. If you know you're looking to increase the size of police or fire, that's a good effective tool to be able to use. I'm sure I'm missing something. The highlights is right, so I can think of it.
Mr. President,
You've touched on some of this already, but what involvement had you had in developing personnel rules, regulations, and procedures? And what experience have you had in training and motivating employees?
In two of the cities, in Red Bank and in Sparta, we worked with MTAS to literally rewrite the personnel policies. In both cities, the personnel policies were left over in the 80s or early 90s. And, you have heard it. A lot of things have changed since then. So it was important to literally start from scratch. And we did that in Red Bank, as I said. Now in Sparta, I'm not sure how it is here, but the personnel policies were codified. They were literally part of the code of ordinances for the city. And so anytime you wanted to make any change at all, you had to do an ordinance and obviously get it forward for approval. And working with MTAS, we literally rewrote all of our personnel policies to be up in the 2010s now. To do that, and we also took them out of the code and made it just a policy, I call it a handbook that we use. But of course, any changes that are made to that, those changes have to be approved by the board. By the council, it's not where we have the authority to do that. But that makes it a lot easier for any changes that come along to be able to make, certain changes if you have to. One example we had was that, persons could not ride in city vehicles unless they're our employees. That unless, like, the police officer or somebody, it's a take-home car, and they're literally going home from work and they have to drop a child off at school or something, we let them do that sort of thing. But we had an instance where we had a Christmas parade, and the vice mayor always liked to fill up the fire engine with all sorts of people, like a football team or a bunch of people. So that's an example. We had to make a change to the personnel ordinance to allow, for special events or functions at the direction of the city manager, that you could make those changes. So it's a lot better for that to be as a policy, because it's literally a working, breathing document where you're trying to go through and see, to make sure it can still work for the employees. I think you also asked about motivating and training. Like I said, motivation among employees, morale to me is important. I believe that employees need to go through training to be able to better perform their jobs. And in a lot of cases, it's just information. Information is power. If the employees know what's in the handbook, if they know what you're trying to stress or where you're trying to go, that's something that's important too. It's one thing for me to tell you to go and put these numbers in a spreadsheet for me. But it's another to say, hey, I need you to put these numbers in a spreadsheet because I'm trying to find out the relationship between this and this and how it can work. If you know what my end goal is and not just what the actual task is, you're able to help out a lot better because you may have ideas that you being the one literally putting the data in, to be able to give ideas or be able to motivate and do things differently with that. So it's important not to just do, but to tell people why you do it.
So I think you touched on some of this as well, but I'm going to go ahead and ask the question as I've done with the others. Is how do you view your role in relation relationship toward this council, toward your department heads and the citizens as the city manager?
Okay. The city manager is in charge of the day-to-day operations of the city. It's a little different from where I am right now, because up at Sparta, I'm the city administrator. A little bit of a difference is up there, the board has a little more authority on being involved in personnel matters. That's about the biggest difference. But with a city manager structure of government, it's important to be able to do the day-to-day operations of the city, but with the support of the board, obviously. Like I said before, it's important for me to be able to steer, but you gotta tell me where you're wanting it to go. I do believe that the board should not try to get overly involved in minutia or day-to-day operations of the city. Usually, it's very important for me to be able to report to the council on anything you want to know, and I believe it's important for you all to be able to talk to the department heads or anything you want to know. I ask the department heads to let me know if you talk to them, so if you come to me, I know what the subject matter might be, and I might be able to be ready to have prepared to answer and be able to help you with it. But to me, there is a defining line between what the responsibilities of the board are and what the responsibility is of the city manager and its department heads. Like I said, we're here to do the day-to-day. You all get involved in policy. And like I said, you shape where we go. You're in charge of the purse strings. You're in charge of the budget. If this is the direction you want us to take the day-to-day operations of the city, that's the direction that you have us go. If there's issues with how we're doing day-to-day operations, then I would think you would let us know that too as well, as a board. That's important. So I don't know if I answered your question all the way, but to me, that's what's very important if everybody knows what the different relationships are of what the different bodies are supposed to do, then I think everybody can work very well together as a team.
Thank you. At this point, unless anybody has any additional questions, I'm going to turn it over to Mr. Cook so we can present citizen questions.
Well, Mr. Dorsey, I publish East Ridge News online, and the mayor asked if I would help and be a conduit and gather questions from my readers so that the citizens could be involved in some way in the interview process as well. Much of what I've asked earlier, the council has covered, so I just have a few things here. One of my readers submitted a question. She and her husband moved from Colorado to here, and they love the city and they love the area and the neighborhood. They've seen all the development, not all, the vast majority of development in our city has been at Exit 1 and I-75, and they're frustrated that the western part of the city and the older commercial district is not making much progress there. They're also concerned with the ability to walk around the city. The question is, as the new city manager, how would you plan to promote growth of small local businesses in the more depressed area? And how would you improve the walkability and get around pedestrian-wise in the city?
Well, one thing I mentioned already is that we did a multimodal project. And to me, something like that would be very important here. I know a few years ago we all had bike lanes to bring over here. But a multimodal project that adds sidewalks, curbs, makes it more friendly for people to maybe park their car in one place and walk around to other stores to be able to get involved in that. To me, that's very important to be able to do this. Now, I know out of Camp Jordan, you have a lot of, you already have walking trails out there, but there's nothing that says you can't have, other walking trails, or even, like I said, if you have these sidewalks in place to help them, whether it's Trail A, Trail B, Trail C. If there's any historical things in East Ridge that people might like, it might be good for them to have a way to access those different trails as well. You mentioned the west side, over by the tunnels, coming in that way from Chattanooga. And yeah, a lot of things are happening over on the east side, but with the tourism zone that you have over there, right now. Those funds, I believe, can be used anywhere along in the business district, correct?
It's within the Board of Regent district that we've established, and
Okay, and I'm not sure how long that district is, but if part of that goes all the way down Greenville Road, then that's something that could also enhance that end of the town too, to help with the businesses.
I'm assuming that you have read the Board of Regent Act.
It's been a while, but yes.
Okay. What are your ideas to help East Ridge get the maximum value from the state dollars from the Board of Regent Act?
Number one, you want to make sure you get as much use as possible, because I know they've tried to sunset it before. But you want to make sure you'll get the maximum use of dollars quickly out of that. And obviously, the biggest catalyst for the Board of Regent Act is the more new restaurants you get in, the hotels, any other tourist business, that just helps grow the base, or above the base, excuse me, for the tax increment dollars that you can use to be able to grow the city of East Ridge. And now, like you said, you have to use the money within the Board of Regent to be able to do that. And, I'm sure there's certain things you can or cannot do with those funds. But, being able to recruit new businesses and new retail here is essential to be able to have those extra dollars that you can funnel to other areas within the region of East Ridge to keep the flow going. Oh, can I add one thing that you asked? You said something before about the local businesses.
Yes.
I'm sorry. There's another grant that deals with facades that the state has at the state level, where you're able to get these businesses. I think it's they put so much up, you can contribute $1,500 or a couple $1,000 towards those. It helps modernize the storefronts and everything of that nature too, to help local businesses be able to carry.
The city currently has a facade grant that
Okay.
we're doing. What solutions might you offer our city to fight blight in both residential areas and commercial areas?
One thing that I was in favor of, and I think East Ridge adopted it as well, is you only have so much teeth in your codes department. If you had a violation, you could only charge $50 for that. That's been the Constitution since way back when. But if you're able to get an administrative hearing officer to work with your city, they're able to put a lot more teeth into code violations and to help make sure that some of that blight that you referred to gets cleaned up. And that's a very, very important. I believe East Ridge does have that. Right?
Yes.
Because, so I have rights to that. We're trying to start that in Red Bank as well. To be able to use that to help with the blight in both commercial and residential areas.
Of the 4 candidates that are being interviewed, what makes you the top candidate to become the next city manager of East Ridge?
I have 32 years of government experience. I know the Hamilton County area pretty well. I've spent a lot of my time here working with the governments within Hamilton County, whether it's with the city of Chattanooga, whether it's with Hamilton County, whether it was with the East Ridge or with Collegedale. I have a good rapport with the other city managers to be able to work together to get things done. I have a lot of contacts, like I said, within the county, within the like I said, 911 board, within WMTA, because I've had to deal with all those issues before. I spent a lot of time down at the RPC, with different committees. I was usually, when we had the RPO down at the Regional Planning Committee, or NPI, it's called here, the Metropolitan, I was usually either the mayor's designated or whatever, and I was involved with the technical committee down there and the executive committee when the mayor couldn't go, to help make sure that we're able to get the funding we need for certain projects to keep those moving and keep that on the right track.
What would you consider your most significant accomplishment as a city manager or a city administrator?
I would say the large grants that make a difference to the public. When I talked about the multimodal grants, for instance, like in Red Bank, you know, I could care less about a pat on the back. That's not why you do this stuff. You do it to help the citizens. So, you know, when I drive through there and go down to Cross Beach, even now, you know, I can see the difference, and I see people walking on the sidewalks. And I know that I was able to make the difference for them to be able to do that. And to me, that's just something very important to know that you make a difference to make things easier for people.
Great, that's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. All right, so in closing, there was anything, last comments, questions, remarks you'd like to bring forward?
I love what I do. To me, it's important to be able to get up in the morning. The first thing you think about is, you know, what's on your plate that day, what do you need to be accomplished. So to me, this is not just a job, it's a life that you want to go into. So to me, that's very important. I love my job that I have right now in Sparta. I have a great board up there, very supportive board, very supportive mayor. And to me, you know, that's a big part of it, knowing that you have the support of them and the support of your department heads to be able to do what you want. My mayor up there knows I'm here. I don't keep, you know, I try to, you know, let him know everything that's going on in my world and for his support, you know. If he has issues or things that need to be worked on, the same for him. So, you know, he's wishing me well. One reason I applied to come back, I felt it was something I needed to finish from when I applied the first time in 2013. There were certain issues that came up as to why I did not take the job back then. I'll be happy to discuss it with anybody afterwards if they'd like to know. But to me, you know, you're interviewing me for this job, but in a way, you know, it has to be something where you are able to work well with me, but I'm also able to work well with you. You got to have someone that's a good fit that can do the things that you think need to be done. I've lived in Chattanooga since 2005. I have 3 kids that are in the Hamilton County Schools. They all go to CSAS downtown. They're in 11th, 8th, and 7th grade. I plan on staying in Chattanooga. I have no desire to move anywhere else, even though I'm working up in Sparta. Like I said, I still commute every day because I love this area. I love the city. And I love to become a East Ridge.
Well, thank you very much, sir. Appreciate your time and consideration. With that, we will take another brief recess. Mr. Dorsey step down and exit, and we'll reconvene for item 6.